Hello and welcome back to another episode of Project Peak Performance. Well, you'll be pleased to know we are now a year into this project. So what we've decided to do, get our heads together and come up with our lists of what we took away over the last 12 months that you could really implement into your life, into your business, into your relationships. And we're going to go through this list in a quick breakdown with Ian. And I'm sure you're going to take away some real gold that's going to really help you coming into these winter months and over into the new year. So without further ado, Ian, how are you, mate? And please tell me what was your number one. In fact, should we go number one or number 10? Let's go 10 back down. The 10th one, and we'll work all the way up to the number one, the most important piece of gold you took away over the last 12 months from all of our guests. So what was it, dude?
I'll be honest, I haven't done them in terms of ranking because they're all so valuable, but I've just got 12 that they stuck out to me. I didn't go back through or look at anything. These are just the first 12 that I kind of wrote down. And there's a bit of chronological in there, kind of going back to the first episode. But in the last 12 months, I mean, for people that are listening, for you guys and James as well, like what a privilege it's been to have some of the guests on, have some of the conversations, so much personal value that I've taken in my life that has been quite influential over the last 12 months. So I'm excited for this kind of list because I think people will probably relate to at least half of them, if not more. So the first kind of thing that I wrote down, like number one, stuck in my head all the way through was when we had Emma Pallant-Brown on, which is, I think that was the first episode actually. And she was talking about kind of where her personal best came from and when her happiness came from was when Kelly Holmes, her mentor, actually said when she came out and said she was gay, she kind of released it to the world. That's when she became a better athlete. And that kind of really related to me as someone in running and just day-to-day business life and family life, that if you train happy, you train better, you race better. And the same for work. I think if there's a little kind of shit nugget there in work that you've not dealt with, or there's a little something that you've not released into the open, or you're holding something inside, you're never quite as free in yourself as you need to be. And that was a big takeaway, especially for running events. I found that if I go into them stressed, I don't perform regardless of what level of physical training I've done. So that was a big takeaway that I took straight away, which was kind of, train happy, live happy, really. I don't know what you guys think. Is probably something that resonates with you both as well.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. For me, when I heard train happy, train better, I got brought back to calm. Calm and steady wins the race. The calm attitude we bring into things and where we find flow, and when we're in our sympathetic nervous system and everything's kicking off, we're never going to perform. So, mate, yeah, love that. Absolutely
Yeah.
love that.
Have you found that with any races, Rob, where you've had like a real crap 48 hours leading up to it and you just feel like you're running through treacle? You're like, I should not feel this unfit.
Manchester Marathon. I think that was relatable to that.
Yeah.
It was cold that day. I'd had a bit of cold running up to it. And it just, I don't know. 100% relatable. But I was only even having the same conversation with Kel last night about I need to get another race booked in because they sort of tandem with your own personal life. So, we've had to talk about it before, Ian, but it's 100% synergy with what you're saying.
Yeah. The other one that I put down was a little bit more about morning habits, and it probably comes from working with Dimitri, having Dimitri as a coach for a period of time and having him on the episode. But the bit that I wrote down was be more earth than plastic. And I know that sounds a bit like hippie daisy chains, like I should be dancing around to a campfire with a banjo. But the reality is it's kind of more around understanding what the body needs when we wake up to start a good day, understanding about salt, not hitting myself with caffeine within, kind of 15 minutes of waking up, natural light, a bit of air. And we were talking off camera about autism and things like that. But I think there's such a big influence to the first hour of waking up and not being on your phone and just getting yourself more earth connected.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a hippie way. I just mean that in what the body actually needs, like the facts of science, just be more in tune with what the body wants when we wake up. And I think that's something that I've lived by for probably the last 11, 12 months. And I think we're all probably on that same page. But that morning habit and how important it is to kick off the day, not just because you have a good day, but because it starts the cycle of the next day. If you do it wrong, you get in this wheel where people are just constantly looking for the next dopamine hit, and they're constantly tired, they're constantly brain fogged. That first 90-minute window of waking up is so important for the whole week or the rest of your life, really. You have to look at it as that. So that was one that really, for me, kind of, yeah, stood out as a key thing that's been a big difference. And if I don't follow it, I have an average day in comparison to a really good day, I would say.
No.
You guys ice bath. It's cold this morning at the point of recording this. How are you feeling now?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. I had a guy who's got into cold water therapy this year, and he's actually bought the same barrel as me, and obviously, so he's been seeing that temperature drop. And he actually said to me today, I haven't been in it for a few weeks, because he had a tattoo on his leg. So he said, I haven't been for a few weeks. I felt a bit disconnected with how I felt, and I've got in the last few days, and it's invigorated me. And he said, well, I love today. He said, it's the first time that I didn't reach for an energy drink, and I haven't had an energy drink so far in the morning. And I was like, that's the connectivity of it. You know what I mean? You're actually firing off the same thing inside your body, but you're not using this chemical thing in a tin to do that. You're using cold water therapy, which people think, what's even more bonkers is people think it's weird to jump in a cold tub, but not weird to put a load of random chemical made in a tin can into your body.
Yeah. I think caffeine control is like one of the biggest things that people could take away from anything. And that means not having it within 60 minutes of waking up. And if you want to go to bed at 10 o'clock, then not having it after 12 o'clock. Because what that does is it gives you discipline, yes, but it gives you a sleep pattern that you need. And if you don't get the sleep pattern, everything else is fucked. So caffeine control is like a big tick in the box, you know, in that morning to lunchtime sort of method. I think that's huge. In fact, one of the other ones that I've got on here, I can't remember which number it was, but it was one from Chris Hunt's podcast. I think I've got it down as number 10, and it is like a mission critical. That for me, that caffeine control is a mission critical, and I'll talk about Chris's big takeaway later on, but that was a big one. Number 3, this actually came from your podcast, Dave, and it's something that's kind of stuck with me from your podcast and your relationship that you've got with your wife now, but is not to undervalue or take for granted key relationships. And that's something from your pod that's really stuck with me, is that, you know, my kids, my parents, my wife in particular, it's easy when they're that close to us to kind of just carry on and just take it for granted or undervalue it slightly without meaning to. You don't undervalue it, but it feels like maybe you do. You don't put as much effort into that relationship as you should. That's something I've really worked on in 2024, trying to spend more time with my mum. You know, she's 80 now, trying to spend more time with my dad. I've always wanted to spend more time with the girls. You know, it's a big priority of mine. So it's not so much that. Doing things with my wife, you know, together, because, you know, we get on so well. That's why we got married. So any time that I spend, you know, a couple of hours with Rael or an afternoon or a day, it's a great day. So it's good for both of us. But yeah, relationships, your key relationships, just not taking them for granted was a big one. And like I say, that sort of stemmed from your podcast, really, Dave.
Mate, do you know what? I love that. Do you know what makes me feel a bit teary? That I don't know what it does. It's taking me back somewhere that I didn't like, to be honest with you. But no, love that. And do you know what? In the background, I do a lot now. I mean, a lot of my time, I would say over 50% of my week now is spent on connection, and it's connection with my wife, with my kids. I'm going to see my dad and loved ones. And do you know what? I feel bad about it a lot of the time as well, because I'm not doing it. And strange, I have this draw to just fall back into what I always did before, which was go and do business and just go crazy on it. And I still have that draw. It's like it's pulling me constantly on my t-shirt. And yeah, I'm spending most of my time. And you know what? In the background as well, it kind of makes me feel like I'm being lazy sometimes, and I'm not really spending my energy in the right places. But I know I am for the overall goal. That's what is really important to me. So bring that up, mate, is absolutely amazing. And maybe I should look a bit closely at myself and not have such a problem about doing what I know is the right thing to do, even though the draw inside me is taking me somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's like one of my best mates called me twice yesterday, and I've not had a chance to ring him back, and I feel quite guilty about that. So it's those are the things now which are like really, really important. So yeah, that was a big takeaway. Other one that was a funny one actually, which probably wouldn't have expected to be, but as I was thinking back, I wrote down was when we did the Jobs versus Gates podcast.
Mhm.
And I think we all kind of straight away we were like, yeah, Jobs, we all loved like the Apple, the style, his look and everything he stood for. But because I knew that everyone was like that and me being me, I kind of thought, well, someone's going to have to sort of champion Gates a little bit in some way here. And the more I researched Bill Gates and the more I looked at what he did and the more I looked at the things that he does now and how he ran Microsoft, and the more I kind of sort of connected with him and really liked it. And the things that I took away from that was not necessarily a love for Bill Gates, because I wouldn't say I have that, but it was about PR and marketing of personal brands and not seeing the Instagram life, but seeing at their core who they actually are. And that's what I unraveled with Jobs versus Gates was you've got this kind of like cool, fun, modern, like hero status guy in Jobs, but actually his core, bit of an arsehole. And Bill Gates was fundamentally just not as good as marketing his personal brand as he was, but a good guy, good, trying to do things the right way. That was quite eye-opening, not to just put people on a pedestal and assume that's who they are, but actually spend a little bit more time seeing, under the surface who someone really is. So that was a key takeaway for me on that one. I don't know what your thoughts on that is, Rob.
I
You
mean,
still team Jobs?
no, I'm still team. No, but I think from what you just said there, it's just exploring your perceived initial ideas or what you think that person's like before actually you get to know them, I think is a key takeaway. And I think that's a really good, Kel and I only talk about this the other day, and your perception of what you think of someone actually to who they think they are. So like for me, taking away that is like if anyone you meet in your future going forward, maybe just try and spend a little bit more time before you get your preconceived ideas of what you think they are before actually their core essence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good look. I wouldn't have expected to come from that one, so that's the reason why I was a bit blank. Because, but yeah, really relatable. I understand that one.
Yeah.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Do you know what is really it can be it's relatable. When I was 16, 17, 18, I worked in a bank and I was a cashier in a bank. And I used to just get these cash book, the old books I used to get in the old Woolwich and Nationwide, etc. And the amount of people that walk in and the assumption of what you think they look like to how much money they had in their bank was two different ideas. And it always resonated with me that you can't judge a person by the trainers they wear, depending on actually how much. And actually, what I found was the more richer they are, the less pretentious they came across.
Yeah.
So, yeah, relatable on that one.
Yeah. Really, really cool takeaway. Number 5 was girl power. Came from Claire's, talking about her BJJ journey and just how difficult it was for her to kind of be a girl in that environment and do what she needed to do. She had to kind of almost work and prove herself each time, I think was the takeaway. And having 2 daughters, it's quite an interesting podcast to kind of be part of and co-host, because it kind of made me really think about the journey that they're going to go on.
Yeah.
And I spoke to you guys before about kind of me being statistically average, 40-year-old white male, mortgage, married, 2 kids, kind of for me, that's a real key thing that I have to remember is my girls aren't that. So they're going to have a completely different journey to me. So yeah, number 5, that was a big takeaway, girl power.
Girl power.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
6 was a recent one that we did where we were talking about the new version of Man Up, like we almost like recreated Man Up. And I think we used the analogy of, the dads at the under 10s football pitch swearing and blinding. And almost kind of going over to him and actually saying, man up, like that's not how you're meant to behave. And just don't be that guy. That was my takeaway from that, is don't be that guy. So that was quite a cool one. We enjoyed that one, Dave.
I really enjoyed that one, redefining what it is. And do you know what I think I liked? I think I liked because it's quite an edgy comment to make. And I don't mind being edgy, as I'm sure you're all aware. But no, I really like that one. How redefine it. What do you want to be as a man? Yeah, I took that away, man. I really like that episode and what we spoke about there and what we uncovered. And yeah, I think it was brilliant.
Yeah, we got a lot of dads in the group, a lot of dads that listen to this, and I think that was a really good one for people to just kind of have a little bit of reflection. It's that we're in the back end of 2024 now. You have a little bit of reflection this year on that, and give yourself the new version of man up if you need it. Is the takeaway there.
Ian, even more relatable on that one, mate, was our WhatsApp group we had yesterday that we chatted into, and one of the guys was asking about advice around his son and football coaching. So it was even more relatable than what we just said. It was like, what was great about it was our group and what they responded with. It was like, actually, the new version of man on the positive role model that you should be, rather than the negative one you probably assume that comes with masculinity.
Yeah, it was lovely to see that group kind of kick off and erupt with so many great messages from people in it, which was really cool. 7, this was more of a business one, and I think it was because Darren's podcast that Darren that you got on, Dave, that was in that group as well, and actually sharing some great advice on fatherhood, funnily enough. But the big kind of takeaway for me from that was the importance of profit and cash flow, and just kind of stripping that down to its raw basics in business. We're all my third or one of my 3 kind of key things is wealth, and that includes business. And it's a bit like the whole, if you put the mask on yourself first when the plane's going down, the same relatability is you have to have cash flow in your business if you want to help people through your business, if you want to help your employees, your people, your clients, etc. If you've got no cash flow, you can't do it properly. So you've got to have that lifeblood in business. And that was a cool takeaway, because I found Darren like super relatable to the modern day business person, that's trying to create something that shows, just stripping it right back. If you haven't listened to that episode, go and listen to the bit of how he started his business and how he got it to where he got it to. Raw, authentic, graft, hard work, disciplines, but just remembering that if you ain't got no profit, you can't do anything. So that was a cool one. Relate to that, Dave?
Yeah, no, I thought it was I thought it was a brilliant one. I love the way he delivered it. And yeah, you're right, mate. It is the life, the way he breaks down all of the different attributes of the people he's dealing with at the moment in Trade Coach, which is the brand that he runs under. Yeah, no, it was a great message, and yeah, it literally is the fuel that keeps you going. Yeah, I love it, mate.
Number 8 was a big eye opener. It was an amazing experience to go to Wentworth and podcast with Gareth Barry. Obviously, England international, Premier League Hall of Famer, and winner. And the stories were exciting, inspirational. As a footballer, kind of having a bit of fun with Gareth was awesome. But the big kind of takeaway was the fact that someone that had achieved what every little boy wants to achieve who plays football was effectively my age and didn't really have a purpose, or didn't really have a mission, didn't really know what he wanted to do next week. And was it, with anything, a little bit lost. And that was quite a big takeaway, because it kind of reminds you that you don't want to get to that stage. And I think we spoke about it before. Once you climb a mountain, there's another mountain somewhere else, normally a bigger one. And you've seen it with people like Johnny Wilkinson talk about winning, the Rugby World Cup, and he was interviewed, how long did that feeling last? And he was like 3 seconds, and then it was gone, and you kind of just have to remember sometimes that don't get in that place, have that next thing, keep pushing, keep pushing. So that was a bit of a wow moment, actually, that Gareth Barry one. And I don't know, there might be people in the group that feel that way at the moment. I know, Dave, you've openly shared that sometimes you felt that way, actually.
But yeah, still to this day, I still don't think that I don't feel like I've got my finger right on the purpose button of life at the moment. I'm trying to figure it out, in all honesty. But when I listened to that pod, it made absolutely perfect sense to me. I've done it in a different way. I've not done it through sport. I did it through business, and basically hit my dreams of where I wanted to be. I'd hit the bar that I'd set myself at a young age, and when I got there, I fell in, mate. Yeah, there was no one clapping, no one gives a shit. It was like,
Mm.
wow, okay, this isn't what I expected. And trying to find that new one now, and the podcast we did with Mike, climbing the second mountain, that actually answered a lot of the confusion. And no, they didn't answer it. It's maybe a big word, that, but it certainly gave me, it shone the torch on an area to look, which I didn't have before. So, yeah, that climbing that second mountain is what I'm attaining to do now in my own little life, in my own personal little way. But yeah, actually, absolutely huge thing. I think it's a thing that's going to hit a lot of people. Retirement, generally, people get in this stage, but if you're lucky enough and fortunate enough for it to hit in your maybe 20s, 30s, 40s, it's a big deal to deal with. It makes you feel like shit. So yeah, what a great way, mate, to put it in there, put it on your
Yeah.
list. It's going to
Yeah.
be on mine.
I think people can overestimate what they can do in a year. They really set these big goals and they don't achieve them in a year and they get frustrated. But I think also people really underestimate what can be done in 3 to 5 years. And I just think back to like avocado. If I went 5 years back, avocado is not even a little sperm. It's not even a thing. It's not even a thought. And now I fast forward 4.5 years and it's like, wow, what's been done, but couldn't have done that in a year. So don't get frustrated. So it's kind of be patient with those goals, but also have the next chapter in mind. It's making sure when you tick the box that you've got something that's aspirational and a good goal for the next thing, which was the takeaway there. Number 9, I think we will all probably relate to this in some way, was just the parenting tips that we picked up along the way, like just between us and other people and the group. We did the whole diet play with the breakfast with the kids. We're always sharing ideas. We're always talking about things, with being parents, being dads. We've got kids of different ages. We've got twins in the pack. We've got girls. We've got boys. We've got older kids. So that's just something that I wouldn't say one single thing. I would just say the theme of the last 12 months for anyone that's listened to multiple episodes, and in particular the reviews, would have definitely become more educated and more knowledgeable as a parent from having this show in their life. I would say I think you guys probably have the same thing on your list, I would have thought.
Yeah.
So Ian, what would you say? What would you say has been some of your takeaways going forward? Like that if someone was listening to this and thinking, okay, well, I want to develop that. Have you got anything that you've done over the last 12 months you consistently do now with the kids?
Yeah, I think it's being a standard and being present are the probably 2 sort of big messages that I tell myself. Is if I had the conversation this morning actually and I had a really difficult moment with Grace, my 8-year-old, on Sunday, where we did this on her doing her schoolwork and her handwriting, and we went loggerheads, and there were tears, and there was arguments, and there was moments where the 3-year-old wanted to get involved, moments where my wife wanted to get involved, but this was a me and her thing, and we had to go through the difficult part of it. We had to go through the grenades to get to the end. And I know whether I would have known that evening whether the right thing had happened or not, and whether she respected the difficult hour that we had by whether she wanted me to put her to bed or not. And she did want me to put her to bed that night, which meant it sunk in. And we've spoke about it a couple of times now. But what she's now got is a standard that I will sit there and be disciplined. And she knew I'm trying to support her, even though she didn't like what I was saying. But my standard is that I will do that with her until we get the moment of breakthrough that we needed to get to, because I'm around and because that's the standard. So that's probably the big thing from a parenting point of view, is delivering on your promises and being around, really. I think that's the overriding general takeaway of it all. The diet thing's obviously really really important for people to hear and listen to as well, for obvious reasons, because, you know, kids do react to things. And Dave, you posted in the group the other day about something that was on the news about British obese children having a injection to lose weight, which, you know, it's like, there's a whole different conversation here that we don't need to have right now.
This is about you.
But listen to the
Joe
one.
Rogan podcast, wasn't it?
Oh God, yeah. Dave's getting. I can see his face getting.
His
flustered
laptop. He's
now.
getting his laptop out. His laptop out. His notes.
Yeah, he's
Honestly,
going back in the ice bath. Just
do
to
not
calm
get me on
down.
this subject. It got me to pissed off level. Not even curious. So
Yeah. So, you know, that's parenting, you know, in its own, and we've all probably got our own key takeaways, but I think we shared a lot there, which has been really helpful, just inside the pack and definitely in the group as well. So the next one that I had down was mission critical, and it was kind of listening. I know Chris really well, but I've never had a podcast like that with him. I've never had a conversation like that with him. It's probably my top 3 podcasts of all the podcasts we've done was the Chris Hunt one. And it was hearing the stories about, you know, training to become a Royal Marine Commando. It was the mindset, the repetition, the discipline, and the supporting of other humans that was involved in it. And that was the kind of takeaway, sort of like 2 parts to it. Is the discipline and that habitual repetition to challenge someone. Are you going to break? If I keep doing this, are you going to break? And that kind of relates to me with obviously the ultra running stuff, but also with the same thing with business, the same thing with life. Sometimes it's repetition. Are you going to break? Are you going to stop your good habits and default to the negative habits, you know? And that was a good takeaway because it just showed a new level of, are you going to break? So I really like that. I really like the kind of mission critical part of it. And I do sometimes relate back on that and think, is this a mission critical thing? Like the morning habits that I spoke about, it's mission critical. You know, those little things, getting ready for a race. I've got a race next weekend. It's mission critical what I do in the 72 hours leading up to that. It's going to impact me. So that's a big thing that's day to day. That's probably a day to day thing that's stuck with me. But love that. This, like I say, top 3 podcasts for me, that one.
Love that.
11, something that's a little bit closer to home, especially with Rob, and obviously we kind of all use Mark's business, but Mark's podcast was probably in the top 3 as well, Mark Burgess. And I still, the business lessons that came from that podcast, even though I've had multiple conversations with Mark, I've never heard him talk like that than how he spoke on that podcast. I've seen him on stage. I've had one-on-ones with him. I've met him in the bar and had conversations. Rob, you work with him daily, but I've never heard him talk that way about being a business leader and the importance of culture, but the importance of people knowing their roles within a business and not overlapping. And it's kind of like, I think, especially as a startup in the first 3 years, you think you should dovetail a lot of responsibilities and roles, and you think you should become a bit of a chameleon. But it really defined the moment where we kind of broke away from that first 36 months of new business and started to think about what happens over the next 5 years. The trigger of that podcast was for me and my role of what I do within that business and understanding how it's my job, but that's only my job.
Yeah.
You know, that's my one job. I have to get that right. And that was a really, really good kind of takeaway, I would say. So yeah, I loved that podcast.
Yeah, it was massive, that, mate. Brilliant. Do you know what? Just as you're saying it, then you had standards and presence for kids, and I wrote down direction and standards. Of pretty much was like a big core bit of that podcast of how you establish things for greater longevity and everything else. No, mate, that was I mean, I think Mark's a great guy anyway. We're mates, but mic drop moment for that podcast for me. I thought it was brilliant, and a lot of people have said the same stuff. Yeah.
I was in a group of estate agency business owners. There's only 9 of us. Started this week actually, and one of the guys was talking about one of his problems that he had. Shareholder within the company, but actively an agent, and working late every night. Still an agency that closes at 7 o'clock. And even though he's a shareholder and runs that office, he doesn't feel that he should leave early at any point to go and spend time with his 2-year-old son, because he feels bad of what the staff might think. And that was a thing for me where I'm kind of looking at that thinking, just looking at it totally the wrong way. Like, be an aspiration to your staff by leaving at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, because otherwise, what are they seeing? There's no reason why they would stick around, because in 15 years, they don't want to be that. In 10 years' time, they don't want to be that person that has to work till 7. So just seeing roles differently came from that podcast, is showing that you are different, showing that you do live a different way, because that's aspirational. And either they want to be part of it with you or they want to fly the nest. But either way, that's going to happen. So just give them the best path as they do it, basically. So yeah, that was a key one. Number 12, the last one. I just wrote down here how good it is to kind of share problems, successes, goals with like-minded people. That's the key thing. Obviously, Alex has been a big part of this year. There's the 4 of us now. And, there's been other people that we've connected with in the early stages as well that kind of moved away from the project for their own reasons. But it's been quite cool just having like-minded people to share an issue with, a success with, a new goal with, because you kind of know that there's no agenda with the group of us. And I feel the same when we did the big summit hike as well. There's no egos, there was no agenda. It was kind of just, we're all trying to support each other in that sort of Marine Corps approach that Chris Hunt was talking about, actually. So that in its own right, I think, locks in a really solid year of being part of the pack. So thank you guys for that as well, really.
I mean, thanks for being a part of it, and long may it continue. We are 12 months old now, hence why we're doing what we've learned over the last 12 months, and we've got some big stuff in the background that we can't wait to tell you about, but unfortunately we can't tell you about it yet because we've got to finalize some stuff first. But there's a lot of good stuff coming over the next coming weeks. You're going to be hearing the same type of interviews from myself, Rob, and James of what we took away from this. And then we're going to be rolling on with our new guests leading up into the winter of 23 and following on into the first quarter of 23, 25. You know where I'm at. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, but for now, I hope you've really enjoyed this pod. I hope you've taken away some gold for yourself, and please start actioning some of these things if you do, and get in contact with us. We love to hear stories from you about what you've taken away from the podcast, what you've implemented into your lives, and it makes it really worthwhile. So thank you for listening for the last 12 months. We hope to have you around for many years to come. But for now, that's it. Have a great day.